Welcome to Ditch the Classroom. This is your host, Ariana Vernier, and I'm so excited that you're here. I'm a teacher turned business coach who is so passionate about helping fellow mamas like you ditch the classroom and pursue your big, hairy, scary dreams. Imagine a life where you could still impact the world, but do so while following your passions and spending more time with your babies. In Ditch the Classroom, we'll explore ways you can do just that. Myself, guest experts, and amazing teachers who have also built a successful business will share tools, tips, and resources to help you ditch the classroom too. Are you ready? Here we go. Before we hop into today's episode, I had to let you in on something special I created just for you. If you've been wondering if freelancing or virtual assistance is right for you and just want to get your feet wet to see if it's a good fit, then you need my Ditch the Classroom toolkit. This toolkit comes with 2 video modules to help you figure out what services you want to offer, as well as how to package your services in a way that will help you attract clients quickly and replace your income faster. There are also 2 special bonuses included. Bonus number 1 is the Set Your Prices video, so you can take the guesswork out of what to charge. Bonus number 2 is the Top 8 Places to Find Paying Clients guide. Right now, you can grab the Ditch the Classroom toolkit and both bonuses for a steal of a price, only $27. But hurry up, because this amazing discounted price won't last long. You can grab your spot at arianavernier.com/ditch-the-classroom or find the link in the show notes. All right, let's get to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Ditch the Classroom podcast. If you've been here a while, then thank you so much for tuning back in with us. I love you so much. And if you're a newbie, I love you too. And thank you for joining us for the first time. I am really excited for today's episode. We're covering a topic we've never covered on this show before, but I think it's really important, especially because majority of you are women. So today's episode, we're covering cycle syncing and what that means, what that is. I have the amazing Ashley McDonald. She's helping women ditch shame and gain back energy with the power of cycle syncing. So I'm going to let her share her story, teach us everything we need to know about this today. So welcome, Ashley.
Yay. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. So I like to just start out the episode with you sharing a little bit about how you got to where you are. Just go ahead with that.
Absolutely. So I'm actually a therapist by trade. So I went to school to be a therapist. I have a master's in counseling psychology and sociology, and I started a private practice right out the gate. And I loved it. And then I had children. So I have 3 kids under the age of 6. And so my life is a little wild over here. And ultimately it changed my path for a lot of different reasons. One, as much as I loved being a therapist, there was some things I didn't love about it. I'm a firm believer that the only way that we can shatter shame, which I believe in essence is one of the heaviest contributors to women's unhappiness, is to share our journey and speak truth and, have that full empathy between one another. And as a therapist, you're not supposed to talk about yourself. You're not supposed to share anything about yourself. So when I would have a woman sit across from me, say, I just had a miscarriage, I need to, not just want to, I need to be able to say, I have also experienced that and I'm with you. Right. And so it's important for me, to be able to have those ongoing relationships and connection. I believe that's actually how we thrive. And so I knew that I needed to kind of rework the system and figure out a different way to be a mentor and a coach. And so that's what kind of took me into the online space. And then along the way, I was just trying to figure out my own path in entrepreneurship and, how to be more successful, how to get more done with less time, how to, all these things. I'm an Enneagram 3. Again, I have a million children. It feels like only 3, but it feels like a million running around all the time. It was important for me to figure out how can I be efficient? Additionally, I was constantly feeling like I was riding this roller coaster of emotions, roller coaster of energy, just never feeling like I had control over myself, right? One day I would be incredibly productive and focused and clear, and my emotions were, right where they ought to be. And then another day I was just a puddle and I couldn't figure out how do I do this? And people kept saying, oh, it's just your hormones, as if this was some overarching excuse or reason without any sort of clarity. And so I dove into hormones and trying to uncover what the heck is everybody saying? What do they mean when they say this? And I discovered cycle syncing by Elisa Vitti. So she coined the term cycle syncing and she wrote a couple really great books. that helped me to understand it. And I took that journey much, much further. And ultimately, it allowed me to build my full practice, which is helping women, like you said, to ditch shame through therapeutic techniques, but also to gain back energy and become more productive, more efficient, get more done with less time, utilizing the power of cyclical blueprinting, which is a coin that I termed, which is developing a blueprint based on your own cycle that allows you to have a better, more fulfilling life without sacrificing the moments that matter most.
Wow. I think I told you before we even hopped onto today's call, I didn't even know this was like a thing until I heard you on another podcast a couple months ago. And then I was like, oh my gosh, brain exploded. Why, like you said, some days I can feel like a rock star and get so much shit done. And other days, like, I'm lucky to keep the kid happy.
Right. Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it is true. And I think, I'm so passionate about this. The passion runs so deep in me. I could talk about it all day long, but essentially I believe from the core of who I am that the true glass ceiling of women is the lack of awareness on our hormones. I believe that a lot of the narratives that women walk around with from early childhood into adulthood is a result of not understanding how their hormones are impacting them. So whether it's, I'm not good at math, or I never have enough energy, or all these different belief systems that we carry that ultimately become our reality, because that's how the brain works, is a result of not understanding our hormones. So it's not about living a life in perfection. It's about living a life in permission, where you start to recognize and give yourself grace for, yes, I'm more moody because of these hormones. Yes, I'm more productive because of these hormones, or I know what my schedule is going to look like. I mean, if you look at my schedule, it is blocked off based on the phase that I'm in. So what I say yes to, what I say no to, what I agree to, all comes back to what my hormones are doing and what's going to actually feel good ultimately, so that I'm no longer getting to that, happy hour with a friend thinking I would literally rather chew off my left arm than have to go out to eat with this person, meaning nothing against that person. But we've all been there, right? Where we're like, why did I plan this? Like, why am I doing this right now? Right now, my schedule is made for me as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's really important too. I mean, all of my listeners, they're teachers, they're moms, they have a lot on their plate. And so knowing how their cycle affects their feelings towards what's on their plate, I think is really important and can help them feel better about everything they're adding on.
100%.
So can you break it down for us? What is cycle syncing?
Yes, absolutely. So essentially, for women who do get a naturally occurring period, and that's kind of what we're digging into today, I will say I teach both for naturally occurring periods and for those who do not get them. We're just not covering that today. So essentially, for women who have a naturally occurring period, we have 4 phases of our cycle. We've been taught about our menstrual phase, right? So that is 1 week-ish of a time where we are on our period. And a lot of us, especially if we have kids, have been taught about ovulation, right? But we haven't been taught about the other 2 weeks. So essentially, every single phase that we have is determined by the hormones that are ebbing and flowing during that time. So what happens in our body tells us what we need to be doing, whether it's how we need to nourish ourselves or how we need to move our bodies or what we can do creativity wise, or how we can show up in relationships, right? And so those 4 phases are, yes, our menstrual phase, which typically lasts anywhere between 5 to 7 days, depending on the woman. So that's the menstrual phase. And then it's our follicular phase. Okay. So we've got our menstrual phase where our hormones are very, very low, i.e. we don't have a ton of energy. There's also a lot of really cool stuff that happens in our brain, which is something I'm passionate about teaching when it comes to our hormones. And then we move into follicular, where all those hormones that are really, really low start to rise up, meaning our energy also rises up. Again, some really awesome things are happening in our brain, but we have a different quote unquote capacity during this time. Then we move into our ovulation phase. This is a time when our hormones are at their absolute peak, meaning we have the most energy, we have the best verbal skills, we're super communicative, all these amazing things because of ovulation. And then those hormones start to come back down in luteal phase, which is the phase right before we move back into menstruation. So it kind of is a circular pattern, right? We've got menstrual, follicular, ovulation, luteal. And during that luteal phase, our hormones are going down, most of them, except for progesterone that's going up. And progesterone is a natural sleep aid. It's a natural anti-anxiety. And so what happens is a lot of our PMS actually happens because of this sort of dictatorship of estrogen and progesterone that's going in our body. So we feel a lot of our moods, we feel a lot of our feelings. We also, because progesterone is a natural sleep aid, we require more sleep. So if you've ever had this like perfect 5 a.m. wake up morning routine and it's just working so well, and then all of a sudden you're like, I cannot wake up at 5 for the life of me. I'm so tired. I need 75 naps a day. Like, what is happening to me? Again, if you knew this in advance, you probably wouldn't have as busy of a schedule. You'd be honoring more sleep because it's as if you took a sleeping medication and then expected yourself to wake up, right? Like it's the same thing. And that's in every phase. There's a different version of us, which I love. I love that women have these unique, beautiful superpowers. They're just different every week. I mean, come on, it's so, so good. So in essence, each phase tells us what's happening in our hormones, which tells us what we can and cannot do, what we should and should not do, how we should and should not show up for ourselves. And they include menstrual, follicular, ovulation, and luteal.
Awesome. So I know like you break this down way more in your different programs that you have, but can you give us just kind of a brief overview as much as you can of like how our like lives are more impacted in these different phases?
Yeah, absolutely. So during our menstrual phase, like I said, our hormones are very, very low, i.e. our energy is really low. And I always tell people that, when I first found out I was pregnant with each of my children, my husband was so good to me. I was so good to me, right? You remember when you first get pregnant and you're like, I don't feel like eating that, so I won't. I feel like sleeping, so I will. I don't feel like saying yes to that, so I won't. Well, in essence, when we are menstruating, our body is working just as hard as it is when we start to create life. And yet we don't change anything. So I always say, like, could you imagine if I had a giant cut on my arm and I was just bleeding out and walking around town? Do you think that people would probably say something? They would probably ask me to sit down and rest or like take care of myself or be more hydrated or eat certain foods to help with healing, right? We're literally bleeding out for 1 week of the month and doing nothing different. We're expecting ourselves to show up the same at work, to show up the same, with our children, with our spouses. We're expected to show up the same in all these other areas. But why? Right? And so I treat myself during my menstrual phase as though I've become pregnant. I love on myself a little bit more. My husband has been coached through how to love on me a little bit more during this time, how to serve me in essence, but it's changed my life, right? So energy is lower. We have a 25% increase of connectivity between our right and left brain hemispheres. We actually have a greater capacity for ideas and brainstorming and introspection and reflection. So it's a really good time to hone on that kind of stuff productivity wise. And then we move into follicular phase, which is, again, all those hormones are rising. So our energy is rising. And in our brain, we can take on more newness, for lack of better terms, right? So where I might say, I just created this amazing course that comes out on May 18th. It's called the Flow Lab. And it is a DIY how to sync with your cycle course. But creating a DIY course, I typically do like one-to-one or one-to-many coaching like this. That's my zone of genius. A DIY course was very new to me. I knew better than to sit down and try to create it during my menstrual phase, during my luteal phase. I would have been so overwhelmed, so overtaken. I would have probably developed all of these narratives of like, I can't do this. Isn't for me. I'm not good enough at this. Right. But instead, strategically, I plugged it into a phase, when I knew that I would be able to strategize and to show up with energy and to feel really good about this and to have the brain capacity to do something new, to learn something new. Equally as much, that's the time to go on new dates, to meet new people, to do networking events, to try new things in the bedroom. I mean, you name it. This is when your brain can actually do that, which is so cool. You might also notice during this time that you crave things like kombucha or pickles or sauerkraut or yogurts. And that's your body's way of telling you that digestively, you need a little bit more support. And some of these natural probiotics are going to be helpful. So when I teach a lot of this stuff, what I notice in my audience is a lot of women going, oh my gosh, my body has been telling me this all along. And it's so true. The difference is now I make sure that I have the right foods in my refrigerator to honor the phase that I'm in, to honor what I need at that time, right? So additionally, in follicular phase, we actually need less calories. I talk often about diets and these regimens that we try to fit ourselves in. And I'll tell you, the real big stringent issue here is that our society has been built on a man's hormones. Okay. So a man has his hormones kind of ebb and flow throughout a 24-hour period. right? So the time that he wakes up, he's got a big old surge of testosterone, which means he has more capacity to like work out right away, have this massive morning routine, do all these amazing things, right? Then get into work and be connective and and he can have that repeat day, the same day, every single day. Okay. Well, we keep trying to do that as women, right? We keep trying to be just as productive tomorrow as we were yesterday. We keep trying to have the same day on repeat. But we aren't the same person on repeat. And so that's what doesn't feel good, right? We have people like Tony Robbins, who he's amazing. I love him. But he's telling everybody, you have to have this, 1 hour, power hour morning routine. You're just going to kill your day. That's for men.
Yeah.
There are 2 weeks of the month when I can have that killer power morning routine. It's going to be amazing and harness all this masculine energy. And I'm going to thrive, ovulation and follicular, by the way. But then there are feminine times during my menstrual and luteal phase where that will actually go against me. That will release cortisol in my body, which is a stress hormone. Cortisol literally comes into our body and tells every other hormone to sit down and shut up. And so nothing else can work the way it's meant to work, right? And we'll feel lethargic and fatigued. We'll actually retain weight, right? So again, these fitness routines that are go, 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 work out, work out, work out, don't eat this, don't eat that, restrict your calorie intake. They are causing overages of cortisol in our body because they're going against the framework of what our body requires, right? So the traditional diet of less calories and more fitness works really well during follicular and ovulation. Works really well. Our body thrives with that. But the reason why many women feel like they take 2 steps forward and 1 step back is because then when we move into luteal and menstrual phase, they actually play against us. So that weight we lost, the energy we gained, the goodness we were feeling, we're now going to feel the opposite of because we're trying to stay consistent in that. Where in all actuality, we need to alter. We need to slow down our fitness. We need to increase our calories. And I get it. So many women tell me like, then I'll gain weight. I promise you, the opposite is true. You will actually be giving your body what it needs and start to feel the way you're meant to feel. We are not men. Newsflash of the day. We are not men. We are not meant to feel those ways. We have a very different way of being. Okay. So that's follicular phase. And then we move into ovulation. Again, ovulation is the peak of our hormones. We have so much energy, so many verbal skills, so much communication, right? I'm moving into ovulation. You might be able to tell by my like crazy energy. This is not who I am at all times. This is just who I am during like follicular ovulation, right? But the thing is that I know to schedule my life in accordance to that. I know to have a lot of dates with friends. I know to have dates with my partner. I know to, work out harder, give myself a little bit more in that energy form, right? Book my calendar. I mean, I was a little late to our call today because I have back-to-back stuff today because I have the capacity to do so. There are times when I do not. That's not the case right now, right? And there is actually in our brain, we have better communication and verbal skills. So I always joke around about this, but even if you want to have a fight with your partner, this is the time to have it because you will win. You have such good communication skills, right? Or if you want to ask for that raise or quit that job, do it during this phase when you have more naturally occurring confidence, better verbal skills and communication techniques, right? Don't do it during a phase when you're just going to be so emotionally driven that you're not really sure what you're saying, right? So that's ovulation. And we're going to move into luteal, which honestly, luteal has a very bad rap. I kind of laugh about it because I think sometimes I like to make light of a lot of this because I think it can be very overwhelming and it can feel like, oh, I have to change so much. And I don't want people to feel that. I want people to understand just how simple it can be and how beautiful and intuitive it can be. But I do make jokes about, I did a really funny reel the other day, or at least I thought it was very funny, of like, if I can give you one piece of advice as a marital therapist, do not fight with your husband during luteal phase because you probably won't even care about the thing that you're fighting with them about next week, right? Because you're just so emotionally driven. Things just feel really, really heavy during this time. So during my luteal phase, I'm very cognizant of not overscheduling, of creating more flow in my schedule, of telling my husband, I need space. Like I'm just, when you feel, you wake up and you're just like, everything that everybody does around me is so annoying. I just can't, right?
I felt like that yesterday.
Right? It's normal. And all women are trying to do is fight against their normalness. And I'm not saying go around and just be a bee to everybody, right? Like I'm not giving you permission to do that, but I'm giving you permission to ask for space and to ask for help. I require more childcare during luteal phase. Right? I require more support. And the thing is, when I show up for me, I get to show up for everybody else in a way better, more empowering, beautiful, magical way. Additionally, during luteal phase, we actually need more calories. So remember what I was just saying, that during follicular and ovulation, we really need less and we feel really good on it. Well, then if you continue that into luteal phase, your body is going to be deprived, just energy stricken. All those moods that you thought you felt, way worse. I mean, I am a rage at that time if I am not honoring more calories, more complex carbs, more sources of vitamin B to curb those cravings, right? More sleep to honor the high progesterone levels in my body. Now, I get it. I work with so many corporate women who have a job that they don't have a lot of control over. And we can make really small adjustments of just making sure you have these little 10-minute breaks or even a 5-minute break to do breath work, for instance, to make sure you're managing the cortisol level in your body. So yes, you can have massive control. You know, I am an entrepreneur. I do run my own business. So I do get to determine mostly what my schedule looks like, but I'm also a therapist and a coach. And so I see a lot of clients, and I can't say, I mean, maybe one day my business will look like that, but I can't be like, I just don't see clients during these 2 weeks of a month, right? I don't do that. The difference is my schedule has more gaps. It has more white space. It has more allotment for restoring my energy, going for that walk, taking a quick power nap, right? Making sure I'm getting the nourishing food that I need. So the beauty is that we all have this cyclical blueprint inside of us, right? This complete guide to what our body needs. The issue is that we've been taught to ignore it.
When I heard you on that previous podcast and you said what you said here about the world being focused and centered around men's cycles, and us as women, our cycles are not in 24 hours, they're in 28-ish days. I was just like, that's so true. That's why I felt the way I felt for so long. And I think so many of my listeners will really appreciate you breaking this down in a way that's easy to understand, that helps them just understand that on those bad days, it's not a reflection on them. It's their hormones. It's their body asking for more, and that they can take the time, fill their own cup so that they can fill the cups of other people in their lives. So I just appreciate you breaking that down for us.
Yes. Oh my gosh, of course.
Awesome. So how do you teach cycle syncing different from other cycle syncing educators?
Yeah. So, you know, I believe that one of the things that really sets me apart in this field is my therapist background. I am just a firm believer that our mindset controls most of our life, right? So what we believe becomes our reality. And a lot of these false beliefs and these false narratives come as a result of our lack of awareness, right? And so the combination of understanding more of what's happening in your body, as well as teaching how to uncover those narratives and how to rewrite that story methodically within your brain, like how to truly rewire your brain to see, to believe, to think differently, is so incredibly important, right? We have to have control over our mindset. I always tell my clients, like, you've got a pen to your story. And anytime that you like just decide this person's story is better, or my husband can take the pen and write his own version of this, you give over control of what your life is going to look like. And so when I teach cyclical blueprinting, I teach it through the lens of how were you built? And how can we build a life around you? But how can we first ensure that your belief systems match this new life? Because I can teach you all the tools, right? So I love time strategy and productivity hacks. I work with a lot of high-level entrepreneurs. That stuff just gets me going. I love, teaching people how to develop their cyclical blueprint. But at the end of the day, I could teach you all these things. And if you are believing that you are a low energy person, that you're not good enough, that you never follow through with anything, if those are the beliefs that you carry in your brain, it doesn't really matter what I teach you, because your brain is so brilliant and so smart that it will seek out truth and proof of what you have deemed truth in your heart and in your brain, right? So again, it's going to focus on how you never follow through. Even if 90% of the time you follow through on things, your brain will only see the 10% that you don't, to reiterate and to protect you. It's not like a self-demise. It's literally a self-protection, right? Our brain, when we say like, I don't like people who act like this because they hurt me, right? I had this experience and people hurt me and they're like this. Every time somebody is like that person, you're automatically triggered and your brain is telling you, go away, don't talk to them. They're not safe. It's not a good idea, right? That's one example. That is true of anything. If I were to believe, and I did for a long time, that I was not a good mom because I'm not, my mother is just a clean freak, and our house was always taken care of and she was always present with us. And I tried so hard to be that version for so long and always believed like, I'm just not good enough. I can't do this. It doesn't come naturally to me. I don't know how she did it. All these thought processes. I was going to stay in that space until I was willing and ready to do the work to uncover, one, why did I believe that? And two, how do I rewrite it? No, I'm not my mother. But I am an extraordinary mother all my own. I do things differently and perfectly for my kiddos because they were chosen for me. They were given to me for a reason, right? So it doesn't matter if I had, themed days for the ways that I clean and present moments of 10-minute increments or all these little fun hacks that we teach, which are very valuable. But it doesn't matter if I have those things, if I haven't rewritten the story that I'm believing in my heart and in my brain. Right. So that's really how I come at it differently, is to help women gain back control of their story and their mindset and have more empowerment as they move through cyclical blueprinting. I love that so much. That's awesome. So you've just given so many nuggets of gold. I'm going to have to re-listen to this and just take pages of notes. So excited. Do you have any resources that you would like to share with my listeners? Yeah. So of course, I always want to give credit where credit's due. Elisa Vitti is an incredible author and doctor and researcher, and she wrote the book In the Flow and Woman Code, and they're really great resources to learn more about this. There's also a couple other authors, Kate Northrup, who wrote Do Less is an awesome book to pick up as well. But I also have a few resources that I love to give people. I have a Cycle Syncing 101 guide that I know I've given it to you so you can share it with your listeners. It's really just a quick breakdown of cycle syncing so you can kind of get a better idea of what it looks like. Additionally, I've got that Flow Lab launching very, very soon on May 18th. I'm so excited about this program. It's been something on my heart for a very, very long time, a way for me to give back and teach women how to do this, how to understand this, everything from balancing your hormones to managing the things that really disrupt your hormones, like stress and our elimination systems and, our blood sugar, the things that really matter, the education that women have needed all along, right? As well as a breakdown of each of those phases, how to develop your own cyclical blueprint. And then I have some incredible guest experts in the program as well to teach us things like breath work and seed cycling and all these really awesome variables that take things to the next level. And so both, the link to the Cycle Syncing 101 will be in there, as well as the Flow Lab waitlist. Again, it opens up really soon, and those on the waitlist will get some of that early bird pricing, so they can get it and learn more. And I have a few other programs that are a little bit higher level that take more of that therapeutic support as well. But definitely, I think a lot of my free resources you can find on my Instagram. I really love Instagram. I mean, it just brings me a lot of joy. So you can come over there. I have tons of reels and IGTV and different ways to get educated. And I also host monthly free webinars. So I've got a free webinar every single month that goes a deeper dive into one specific topic. This month is actually on May 18th as well, because that is the day that doors open for the Flow Lab. And it'll specifically be on nourishing your flow. So a very in-depth breakdown at what you need to eat, specifically the 5 adjustments that you can make in your diet to honor your hormones and find more alignment in your life. Super excited about that. So you can tune into that as well. You have so many goodies for my listeners. So I'm really excited. Y'all, you can find any of those links. I'll have them in the show notes. So you can go check that out and make sure you connect. What is your Instagram? Yes, it's just Ash McDonald. Okay. Just Ash McDonald. So ASHMCDONALD. Perfect. Awesome. So I have one last question for you, and it's a question that I like to ask on every episode. Mm-hmm. If someone wanted to start their digital classroom journey, but they just felt too overwhelmed, what would you tell them? Well, I think a lot of overwhelm comes from that lack of awareness of our hormones again, right? Because we're really not showing up for ourselves the way that we need to show up for ourselves. So the simple tip that I would give is quit your job during ovulation. You have the confidence and the verbal skills that you need, but the longer version suggestion would be really get clear on your own cyclical blueprint so that you can feel less overwhelmed as you start to move into having more control of your life and your systems. Even in the classroom and outside the classroom, this will give you the best gift of your life. Perfect. I love that so much. I have really, really enjoyed this
interview with you. And like I said, I'm going to be taking a ton of notes, and I know that my listeners are. So I appreciate you so much for coming on with us today.
So welcome. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So for my listeners, make sure to go show Ashley some love. Thank her for coming on the show with us. Go check out her freebie and her new Flow Lab program. Those links again will be in the show notes. I thank you guys so much for tuning in with us this week, and I will see you on the next episode.
Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Before you go, make sure you take a minute to subscribe to the show, leave a rating and review, and check out the show notes for a free gift to help you ditch the classroom. If you loved today's episode, can you help me share the message by taking a screenshot, tagging me on Instagram @ariana.vernier, and sharing it with your friends so we can help more mamas ditch the classroom and follow their dreams. Until next week, y'all, keep following the dreams that were placed in your heart so you too can ditch the classroom.